Hello and welcome everyone to the LCS Challengers League week number 4. We're passing that halfway point. People are going to have to start thinking about playoffs soon. I'm going to be your cast of the day. I'm Eric Desrux Beltran. Joining me, of course, reunited. It feels so good, Josh. It feels so good, Joshua Joshi Howard.
We were supposed to have you last week, Eric, but unfortunately we weren't able to do it. Also, we had a banger of a series going on that was live on this channel. Make sure you catch the end of Doyi and Tony Tom versus Team Fish Taco, twitch.tv/saltyrunbackpod. They were in Game 3, and these are two of the teams that we are pretty excited to see potentially playing for that relegation spot in the promotion tournament at the end of this split.
We will have that one more time into the Twitch chat. That is twitch.tv/saltyrunbackpod if you want to finish up that game. But we got to get on to what we have at hand here on the NA Challengers League. And we do have a guest that's going to be joining us right now. I'm very excited to be introducing this person. I started following you back in 2021, CLG Amateur. You had a great run in GT, AoE GT, excuse me, and now being in wildcard, 3rd place, having a great record. Welcome to the desk. It is Keel.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, now that we have Keel on the desk, it feels like I can just go, right? We have somebody who knows way more about the game, so...
Yeah, he's going to outpace...
I'll take it over from here, yeah.
All right. Keel, do you know how things work around here? Have you been seeing some of the content we throw around here, Keel?
I'm ready. I've braced myself. Yeah, I'm prepared as best I can.
You really will need to brace yourself because we kind of get a little bit out of hand on some of your storylines. But don't worry. We're gonna bring you in very gently with the North American Talent Update brought to you by Cubby.
Hello and welcome to another NA Talent Update. In the spirit of Valentine's Day, we're going to be spreading a little bit of extra love this week. So we're going to start it off with Mazel as he walks us through the Challengers Safari.
Welcome to the Challengers Safari. Let's go on a journey to find the love language of the jungle. And here we have the likely duo of Sketch and Aaron, the bottom laners for CLG Faith. They find themselves in a bit of a tussle, but that synergy and love between Sketch and Aaron shows them through. And a little bit of a wombo combo. Now we see the epitome of a brotherly friendship in the wild. Svenskeren and Hanser. What love. And up here it seems we have a peaceful wolf, taking his time among the trees, but what is this? He's taking the... I think he's got the dog in him. I'm so sorry. Caught off guard there. You know, I do love brotherly times. And seeing these two work so well together. Oh, Svenskeren, you found yourself out. But luckily, your friend is always here. Oh, beautiful friendships and kinship in the wild. You see the more mature Winnie coming to save Darkwings. The familial bond really coming in strong and too much for Young to handle. That's true friendship.
We had some great plays on the Rift this past week, so I felt like I had to commemorate them this week with some Valentine's Day cards that you, and maybe even the players, might be able to use. My axe is thirsty. Are you?
Faisal, even though there was...
He can turn this.
He can turn this easily, flash away. That damage! Faisal, you don't fight him! You leave him alone! You let him have his own island! Even if you send Victor down, he's gonna chase it down! Triple kill!
What did we say?
Meet me between the turrets. I know we have 2 mid. Please look bot.
Mia's probably just dead. One shot. Yep.
Oh my god. Spin to win with me, and we can let it rip.
Backline on a Keel. They've got zone control though with the quick and look at Moose Hater. Look at the heroic entrance. Double knock if they needed to. And Moose Hater, he stands there menacingly.
Oh, that's a kill. He's dead.
Over the competition. Lands kiting it back as Wild Card win the...
Thanks for joining us for another week of the NA Talent Update. We hope that you enjoyed a little bit of extra love that we had for our players this week. We hope that you spread that love to everyone around you, as we'll see you next week. And until then, may your week be filled with positive gaming experiences.
Look,
Josh,
Eric,
I blame you.
you blame me.
I blame
Okay,
you.
I just have to say that when Cubby says let it rip, it does not mean anything about Beyblades.
No, I'm blaming you for hearing, for the first time hearing Mazel Awu. If I ever hear that again, I'm going down to your place and I'm burning it, Josh. We're not having that. We're not having that. Kill, I got to know real quick, who's your Valentine?
My Valentine is Sligo. He's my goat.
Oh,
But from that clip, I can confirm Jenkins does have that dog in him. Yeah, that was a rough
Yeah,
early
I
game
put
for
the dog in them too. You know, it is what it is.
Don't join him, Kill, please.
Let's go.
All right, Kill, on to our next segment. I know Moose Hater is in Austin, Texas. We got someone else from down south, from down those parts. So why don't I introduce you to Mazel and On the Range?
All right, you wind it up real tight now and you let it loose.
Okay.
Oh, hi there. I didn't see you. Welcome to another episode of Bros on the Range. I'm trying to teach my greenhorn Rafa here how to wrangle some critters.
Hey, y'all.
Let's go ahead and see if he can do it now, all right? Let's see. Give him the hat. Give him the hat.
Yeah.
All right, now we got Rose Thorn on the big pig, Rafa. I'm going to teach you a little bit of pig call, all right? So,
Like this. So, so, so,
what's it? It looks like Insanity's gotten out of his pen. Rafa, quick! Go
Okay,
get your lasso!
I got you.
Let's go. He's gonna get it. Hold on now, Rafa. Hold on. I know you can do it. Take my hat. Take my hat. You can do it, Rafa. I believe in you. You can go. Hold. Wait. No. Oh my God. All right, Rafa. We're gonna take a little break now. Just make sure Moose Hater doesn't get Garen while I'm gone.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll make sure he don't get it. Yeah, he's not getting it. Ain't gonna get that Garen, no sir.
All right, I got some coffee. Rafa, God dang it!
Mazel, I'm sorry. I tried everything you told me to do, and I just feel like I can't do it right. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Man, I will tell you, you just gotta give it some time, all right? You see those two down there, APA and Bradley?
Yeah?
It didn't all start off nice and peachy. They weren't two bros in a pod. It took time, all right? It took time. And one day, we're gonna be just as bros as them.
Yeah. You know, Mazel, they really do sing.
They do, my young one. Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at it go. Okay. I didn't think you could do that. Hey. Okay. You gotta be careful about that one. Oh, this one's a fire.
Hey, see, we're gonna be just like them.
Yeah,
Just like them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Thanks for being my bro on the range this week, Rafa. It's nice to have some company every once in a while.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm sorry that kind of messed up your pen a little bit, but you know, appreciate your patience and I appreciate you roasting my wiener too.
You gotta stay proteinized, that's what I like to say on the range.
Yeah.
Oh, they're still here. Well, that's a little awkward. Well, thank you all for coming in on the range for another week. We'll see you next week. Make sure you come back now.
Well, I'm glad at the very end of it they can touch wieners on the range. Feels like Brokeback Mountain, honestly, at this point. I don't know what I was expecting for Valentine's Day. But thank you, Mark, for being a part of that so that I didn't have to.
Thank you, Josh, for the stunning commentary. Kill, you got any input onto that?
I have absolutely no comment about that one now.
It doesn't get better from here, Keel. It does not get better from here.
Well, Love and War, they're so different and yet so similar. One day you can be fighting alongside someone. The next day across the rift, you'll be fighting them. And nothing encapsulates that as much as this week's Super Heavyweight Smackdown.
Are you feeling lonely this Valentine's Day? Do you feel like you're missing out on a deep connection? Like you have so much to give, but haven't met that special person? Well, come on down to this week's Super Heavyweight Smackdown. Perry and Insanity, will they ever love again? Two ex-teammates scorn, betrayal. They worked together last summer. Now they clash this weekend. Who will win? Find out at this week's Super Heavyweight Smackdown.
That's some good content right there. I enjoyed that one. I enjoyed that one.
Whoever made that has a really good voice. Yeah, I wonder who that was.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the video editing a little bit more, if you want me to be honest. Kangas has been doing some of the most blurst edits for our Super Heavyweight Smackdowns, but that's it. That's the comment.
That's about
Some
it. Keel,
great modeling from Insanity and
True.
Perry there. Yeah.
Honestly, I just thought that their facial expressions really sold it for me the entire time.
Yeah, you can tell they were really dialed in and committed to the bid. They know that esports acting. Well, on to our next little bit right now, and that is going to be a challenge that we have, more specifically towards Twitter. You see, each one of our broadcast talent have selected a player who we want to grow the following of. The winner, the one who grows the most, will be able to put a tweet on the loser's account, but we've all selected who we want to grow. Personally, for me, I've picked CLGF Aaron. How about you, Josh?
I got Perry Jungle, and I realized earlier today that I might have picked the wrong player, not because you shouldn't follow at Perry Jungle LOL, because he's awesome and can put his foot behind his head, but because I don't cast any of his games this weekend. So it's going to be very fun just halfway through a cast. It's been like, also great jungler. You know who else is a great jungler? Make sure you follow at Perry Jungle LOL every single time this weekend.
You know who else is a great jungler? We got one right here. That's Kill. Kill, who would you grow if you were to take part of this? Who would you want to grow?
Well, I would just stay away from
Not
Array.
yourself.
I think Array is going dead last in this challenge, that's all.
Array is last? Okay,
Yeah.
Why?
He's not a good tweeter. He needs to work on the game, yeah. He's going to take a lot of work, that's all.
He needs to get that social game going to be able to climb those social ranks. Speaking of ranks, let's pull up the standings to see where our teams currently are at the start of week number 4. I talked about it earlier, Kill. I know you're very much proud of this in the top 4 right now with that 10-4 record. Gotta feel great, does it?
I'm not proud I went first, then.
Oh, fair enough.
But yeah, we're doing okay.
Anything else on here surprising to you about people who are too high or too low compared to what you expect them?
Really just number 1 and 2 are surprising to me. Dig and Fear, I'm just surprised to see how they keep doing. Hopefully they have a good week and yeah, see if they can stay at the top.
Yeah. I know you said that there is at least one of these teams that you thought was the best, and they are currently sitting in 5th. Cloud9 Challengers has been one of the strongest teams we've had, and you're saying that they're actually a pretty good scrim partner too.
Yeah, we scrim them probably our like most common scrim partner, and they just are like pretty consistent in the way they play, and in a style that like puts a lot of pressure on us, and I think we got some good practice scrimming against them.
All right, well, on to the matches of the day, what we're going to have on the broadcast. Let's pull that up right now. First match will be Evil Geniuses Challengers versus FlyQuest Challengers. Moving on with our second match of the day, AoE Gold will take on TSM Challengers. And a pretty big one because we'll have a tri-cast for that. Kill will be joining us for Team Liquid Challengers versus Cloud9 Challengers. Let's talk about that first match of the day, however, and that is going to be EGC versus FlyQuest. A new look. Ryoma came in week number 3, going to try and continue the adaptions to get this team on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, from what we've been seeing from this team, it's been very, very Shaden focused. And we know that that's what it was going to be going into the entire split, right? It has been a team where you really focused on the jungler and building pieces around it. They're still waiting for their Oceanic AD carry and King to join them, so we continue to have the collegiate player of mobility joining us. But we also have Ryoma back, and we got to see a little bit of what they were like with this player over Robbie Bob compared to last week.
I mean, with Robbie Bob, right, that final week, that week number 2, EG won 5 out of their 6 games. If you looked in the mid lane, Robbie Bob wasn't doing the most damage. He was actually pretty low when it came to all the other mid laners, but that's because he wasn't playing for damage. He wasn't playing to carry. He was playing to enable Shaden. He had about 8 assists every single game on a lot of Galio and Lissandra play, enabling the rest of Evil Genius's challengers off of flanking plays like this you see on the Galio, Robert Bobbert. The thing is, it's a completely different take going over to week number 3 when you have Ryoma. Now Evil Genius is going 0-4. You can argue it's a tougher strength of schedule, but you could also argue like Ryoma was expected to be that guy, right? It's a different look for EGC. Shaden's no longer carrying checks a lot of these drafts. I want to see how this next step is going to proceed for this rapid shift of identity in week number 4.
Their opponents this week, FlyQuest Challenger is going to be their first opponent, and this is a roster that has had a lot of success with some very crazy games, some of them being some of the longest that we've had in the entire league. We got to zoom in on the big opponent here for Ryoma. Spirex Jalal has had some of the most impressive growth that we've seen of all the mid laners currently in the Challengers ecosystem, and of course, the fact that he's always got Yuji in his back pocket. These guys have started becoming a little bit more vocal, they're continuing to have success, and they're still waiting on Masu, their star AD carry, to join them from the other side of the continent.
Yeah, Masu, the ping god, got to play on 20 ping last week. So that was a little bit fun to see, but yeah, it's definitely an exciting team right here. It's one of the teams that's a little bit more up there in the rankings. How do you feel about this squad, Kill? I mean, Yuji has been more of the established junglers within the semi-pro space. Are you liking him?
Yeah, I think Yuji's not bad. He's been playing a lot of just like meta. It's just kind of hard in the jungle meta. I've been mostly impressed with Masu, just compared to expectations going in, like far exceeding I think anyone's expectations, and on high ping is just really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing from Las Vegas yourself, right? So you kind of know it's like not nearly the same level, but even compared to some of the people in LA, can you feel the difference?
For me, myself, no, but like when I was back home on like 30 ping against 0 ping, like specifically Maryville players, like APA playing on 0 ping and like CQ, you can feel the difference. So 0 ping is always a huge advantage, All
right, so I want to know your take, Kill. Who do you see getting the upper hand in this matchup between Evil Geniuses and FlyQuest?
I think a lot of it will revolve around EG's identity, like going in with another week of practice with their new team, and seeing how they choose to draft, how they choose to play, and I think game 1 will be like a very defining game for the series.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing, right? Shaden was hopping over to a lot of Wukong and Poppy play last week. A lot of that Poppy was to enable the mid lane, Ryoma, who's on control mages. Tommy still has the hands. He has a lot of those highlight moments. It's just not clicking as a full team, it feels like, at the moment.
Yeah, but for me though, I want to zoom in a little bit on this top lane because it is a couple of players who have had LCS experience. They've never been LCS starters for more than a couple of games in a given split, but both Philip and Soul up in the top lane have had a lot of hype going towards them in previous seasons. And Keo, we've got to kind of be honest, compared to what we knew from them in summer 2022, we're kind of asking for them to reach some of these peaks that we've been looking at. As we roll some of the clips from them, we've got to see that Philip in his very first game going up against Licorice actually had a pretty solid game, but ever since then we also saw during this series he's up getting solo killed 4 times by Lunacia, one of the very exciting rookies that we've had.
And that leads to the question, Kill. How are you feeling about some of the rookies that we've been seeing this split? Because Masu, you already pointed out one, been absolutely tremendous. We've had some pretty good performers for the first time in semi-pro.
Yeah, I think Lunacia too, like no one really knew what to expect of him. I think for the top lane matchup in this series, both Philip and Soul I thought pretty highly of, so hoping they have a better week this time and can maybe turn around how they did last week,
Yeah. As we start rolling the clips a little bit, I mean, they kind of play pretty differently from what I've observed, right? Philip tends to be a lot more focused on like trying to create pressure in the side lanes, whereas Soul has typically been a bit more focused on actually like moving to the team fights and helping out that way. We've seen Philip have some really strong games against Cloud9 on things like the Fiora with the help of Yuji, but at the same time, it hasn't necessarily been consistent. But one of the things that has always impressed me, and I'm going to borrow the words of Bradley, the goal of every top laner is not necessarily to be this massive carry every single time, right? The goal is to be relevant at all parts of the game. You need to make your opponents think about how you're actually playing. So that's one of the big things that we're going to be looking at this time around. Is there anybody, either of these players that you have had like a lot of experience with, like playing alongside or playing against in the past?
When Soul debuted, or when he was just like a rookie, like a very rookie still, I thought he was really good on like his certain champs that he mained. So I think if he's on like one of his like comforts and like really confident in the game, he does really well. And then Philip, I think, is just the same kind of thing. Like if he's on a carry champ that he's comfortable with, he really can take over the game. So I think a lot of it's just like comfort and then playing within the game, feeling good, and then they'll perform well.
Yeah.
Where do you see that comfort at? I remember the old anime girl days. I saw Soul playing more tanks than anything else and being that like primary engage for a lot of squads.
For Soul, his Gwen was like pick or ban at some point, and then he was pretty good at GP, I remember too. And then Gnar is like his like maybe like stable blind pick from what I remember. I know this split he's been playing a lot of Sejuani just to enable jungle and mid.
Yeah.
Especially with like the way their bot lane's been playing like heavily poke champs and ADCs in the bot lane. So I think he's just trying to find his like identity within Evil Geniuses, and if they can get like a coherent like team identity, then they'll be in a good spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how you kind of touched on that, right? Typically, we know Soul is a bit more of a carry player, but this year, as you've called out, he's been playing so much Sejuani. There's been so much focus on trying to sideline basically everybody in order to give all the resources necessary over to Shaden historically. But now that Ryoma's in, we're going to have another strong carry threat in the mid lane, and that's going to be one of the big places where we're always going to look. Ryoma, one of these players who has been around for a long time, has been consistently one of the teams that has done very well in Proving Grounds, whatever team he's on. And so this is going to be very interesting to kind of track. I know, Keel, when I was asking earlier about where you thought EG would end up, I was a lot higher on them than you were.
Well, to be fair, you were just saying relative to C9. I think EG's alright. I don't think too negatively of them. Yeah, like I just see them somewhere around like middle, maybe upper middle.
Okay.
And then we verse them this weekend too, so we'll see how I do against them. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Are you excited about the head-to-head matchup that you got going up against Shaden?
No, that's okay. I think we'll do all right. Yeah.
Just gonna avoid that one. For the mid lane talent, I mean, we had a lot of talks about Ryoma and everything he's done in the past. Has constantly been in that like top 3 picture. But what about the mid lane talent that we have this season, right? He's going to be facing off against Spyrax, MNS, Copy, APA. It feels very stacked, and I think this might be a picture where Ryoma is struggling to still stay at the top of the leaderboards for the mid lane pool.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like a pretty like top heavy league in terms of mid lane. And I think we'll have to see if he can like live up to a lot of the better mid laners, because it seems like mid is a role where there's like a lot of skill expression, and it's a lot just up to the individual player to do well in the games.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you were talking about it well earlier, right? It's really tough for a lot of teams to play against Cloud9, probably because of like how hard MNS tends to smash laning phase, and so that'll be one of the big things that we'll see here as well. Spyrax has become a player that we've also been looking at with really trying to develop the laning phase as well as the ability to move around the map. He himself was saying that he would oftentimes get kind of stuck trying to figure out what to do next. He was so focused on how to play his own lane that he wasn't necessarily thinking as much about how to move around the map. Now, as we start looking at this upcoming game, one of the things that we've been looking at with both FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses is the shot calling has not always been the most on point between these teams. How much do you look at when you're building a roster, trying to decide who's going to be on your team? How much do you judge them based on how communicative they are?
I think in general, it's just always good to have someone who talks. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a leading shot calling, just like voicing their opinions consistently. That's the main thing for me. I think in terms of the game, it's a lot of like, you know, who's ahead, who's doing well, to have like the inner ability to shot call. But yeah, I think especially in this meta, a lot of it is just like jungle and then maybe mid controlling the game. So we'll have to see how the mid jungles match up to each other.
Yeah. As we start getting closer to actually getting ready for this game then, Keel, can we get a specific prediction from you on what you think the score line is going to be?
I'll say 2-0 Fly, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you sounded a little bit shaky there, you know, is it like...
No, it's like a weak guess, yeah.
It's a weak guess?
I can see a 1-1, yeah.
Okay. Now, if Evil Geniuses were to take that one game, how do you think that they're going to be able to do it?
I think if bot lane can be stable for EG, and then mid jungle gets to play like out a more like stable early game, I think EG will be in a good position now.
Yeah. Eric, thoughts?
I got to look at that week 3 performance, and it didn't feel like it was clicking yet for Evil Geniuses. I don't know, man. This is a tough one, because the moment we start putting our votes in on who we think is going to win, things get a little bit tricky here. I kind of want to wuss out and just take the 1-1, Considering I still think that this is the next step of the development coming out for Evil Geniuses, and that what they have right here with Ryoma and trying to find that identity. I just think it's going to be the first game going over to FlyQuest as we take one extra game to kind of get to that point.
Interesting. See, I'm going to echo the 1-1 coming out from you, but I'm also going to echo some of Keel's reasons, right? I think that this mid-jungle duo in Ryoma Shaden is one that is going to be very strong throughout the course of this season. And now that they've had a little bit more time to come together, Tommy has actually had time to sit there with the team and practice how to move around the map with Shaden. We're not going to see the same kind of very disparate ideas that it felt like they had last week, and because of that, I think they're going to be able to pull it off once. Both Shaden and Ryoma tend to be very volatile players, and I think that's going to be how they're going to get their game.
And that's such a tough one for me. I really do like FlyQuest on paper so much. Even with the performance we've been seeing out of Masu, I mean, that rookie performance, it's his very first split to be in semi-pro, and to stand up and with high ping still have performances like we've been seeing. Even looking at the rest of FlyQuest and Spyrax, you know, it's a second year in semi-pro, and how much development that FlyQuest have been able to get out of Spyrax over into that mid lane. Yeah. This is a very, very strong opponent for Evil Geniuses Challengers. I can see why Keel is leaning a little bit towards that 2-0, because this is tough right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's also interesting, too, like having an opportunity to talk with their different coaches about how they feel that their players have been performing. We'll get a little bit more into that as we start actually looking at the game.
Yeah, we believe draft is now going to be ready. So, Keel, we're going to have to part ways right now. We'll see you on the other side. Have a good time. I'm not sure what you're going to do. Maybe invade someone's jungle camps, lock in that Udyr. You know how it'd be. All right, Evil Geniuses Challengers versus FlyQuest Challengers draft now underway.
All right, and here we go. And we'll talk about it a little bit while we wait to see if any of these picks end up being interesting. You've all seen it. We've all seen it. The meta hasn't changed a whole lot in terms of the way that people are drafting on 13.1b. It's just that AD carries are way stronger, and bruisers are a lot weaker. But one of the big things that we do want to talk about is how the coaches have kind of been reflecting on their teams, right? Soul Strikes has been very excited about his squad. Even as far back as Worlds over in San Francisco, we had a chance to meet with him there, and, you know, he was very secretive about it at the time. He was like, we have, you know, a lot of players returning. He was able to tell us that Philip UG Spyrax were coming back, but he was also like, I'm very excited about our bottom lane. Can you guess who it is? And we're like, are they a collegiate player? Are they an amateur player? And he's like, oh, collegiate. And we're like, okay, is it like Scary Jerry? And eventually we got Masu out of him. But on the other side, we know from talking to Kelsey that Soul has been pretty down on himself recently in the way that he's actually been performing on stage. But generally, it's all about how you respond to that, right? Just because you feel like you've been struggling, does that mean you're going to go grind, or does that mean you're going to stop trying? And from what we know from Soul, he has been putting in the hours. He's been playing more solo queue than almost anybody else on this team right now in order to try and get himself back into that spot. So we can hope to see a return to form from this guy.
Soul has a good head on his shoulders, even with that LCS time. We saw that in a lot of the interviews. We'll be excited for his growth as we continue, but taking a look at the draft right now, this is the first time in a while that Viego was left on the table. It's an identity that Evil Geniuses are kind of stepping away from. They are going to lock in that Wukong. Still getting some power with the Zeri, and Lulu will be in their bot side for EGC. It's going to be matched up with that Lucianami.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to see this Wukong coming out. It was something that Shaden had a lot of success on in 2022, and now that he's less focused on trying to solo carry the game on things like Viego and Kindred, he definitely has the opportunity to be a little bit more of a setup for the rest of his team, go for some of these solo invades still anyway. And going up against Vi, I've been a little bit surprised that Vi has remained as popular as they are, especially in comparison to picks like Sejuani, but it is going to be the pick here for Yuji, and that was one of the things that we looked at last year on why Yuji found so much success. When they came in at the beginning of 2022, we were not impressed. Like, we knew he had the hands, but he would be so fast or so slow, and it didn't feel like it had the right opportunity. But having talked to him last week, he said that he's become a lot more confident. He's talking again.
I remember a lot of our early talks last year about Yuji was like, Yuji ganks bottom, that's the standard playbook. That is all we really get from Yuji. We were waiting for that expansion to come out of Yuji. And there were some worries, personally, you know, Diamond no longer being on that FlyQuest roster. That was a very vocal part of FlyQuest. But still, they're booming out, they're looking good. Yuji has been adapting well to this new setup. And the next pick coming out for FlyQuest, going for the solo lane, it's going to be Cassante locked in.
Yeah, if this was wildcard, they'd be lucking Garen right here. But instead, because it is Soul, I mean, the Gwen that Keel was saying was kind of pick or ban last year is definitely one of the foremost counterpicks to the Cassante, are going to be locking that in. And now Ryoma does have to blind the champion going up against Spyrex. Ryoma has typically been known for much more of the mage play and had a fantastic game on Syndra last week, whereas Spyrex, I feel, has been relatively free-flowing between assassins and mages.
I can just say I like this a lot more for Evil Geniuses because it's no longer Soul just being kind of hard stuck on some of this tank play that's looking to support more Shaden. And for Ryoma, oh man, it's been getting hot.
Wow.
As of lately, mid lane, we're gonna have a Tristana, Josh.
That's a gauntlet being thrown right off the bat, blinding Tristana into Spyrex. I mean, it makes a little bit of sense, right? Tristana has one of the best matchups into a lot of mages out of anything you can play in the mid lane, and also is really good into Sylas and Akali, which are two of Spyrex's most played picks from 2022. We've been seeing a lot of Victor locked in, but I gotta say, this is the kind of thing where you suddenly need Yuji to be paying a lot of attention to the mid lane. Victor should not be able to stand up in this lane all on his own, and will really need that help from the Vi.
And even then, you need to have some pretty good timings. It's very easy to get the reset for your rocket jump, and we've seen some players kind of fall victim to that, where they try and flash after the rocket jump getting used, not realizing that that proc came in. So Yuji will have to keep a very close eye onto that mid lane.
Yeah.
But I like this gauntlet thrown down from Evil Geniuses Challengers. I think this is a very good shift from what they're looking to do from back in the old just support Shaden. It's something that is looking to have more agency and more trust into their lanes altogether.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, right? You have both Soul and Ryoma with strong laning opportunities. You have Shaden who can support them, and it kind of hark back to what Keel said, right? If Mobility and Smoothie can kind of shore up and have a stable game against Masu and Keektong, the top side should be able to actually win them the game. But that's assuming, again, that Mobility and Smoothie are able to stand up to Masu and Keektong, who have been some of our best performing bottom laners in this entire tournament.
That being said, though, we've seen moments where Masu had slipped up. It was in the NA Talent Update. Sketch and Aaron were able to get the better of them. But that is a situation that's few and far between. Masu, for the most part, has been very clear and cut with his performances. Mobility, it's the other collegiate rookie, played a lot on Winthrop as a sub, I believe it was, last time I did see that name. And this was a very raw mechanical marksman back in the collegiate space that is still looking to develop a lot more to kind of refine that edge. It's something that Evil Geniuses Challengers are going to be stuck with for a while, though, because you still have those issues with King. You might be spending the rest of the split with this player, but there are some chops where I'm seeing a lot of high points in Mobility's play. I just think it's going to be a big challenge with Masu.
It is going to be a big challenge. Now, the one thing that we do know about this is because they are playing on the LA server, everybody on FlyQuest will have, great ping, except for Masu, right? And this has been one of those things that we always look at when you are playing things like the AD carry. When you're playing on low ping, it is so much easier to play reactively, whereas when you're playing on high ping, you have to play a little bit more proactively so that you are making your opponents react to you instead of reacting to their plays. And so Masu with this Lucian Nami will kind of struggle for the first couple of levels going into Mobility and Smoothie, but after about level 3, this is where we can look to Masu and Keektong to kind of pick that up. And of course, the rest of the map also needs to make sure that they remain stable as well. And so this could either be that first game that Keel and I were talking about where Ryoma and Shaden pop off, or could absolutely be a situation where if Masu and Keektong stay strong and run over the bottom lane, this could very easily be that first win for FlyQuest in order to move towards the 2-0 that Keel was predicting.
And it could really go either way onto the bot side. I mean, I still give the skill over to Masu from those performances that we've seen, but Shaden playing supportive to the lanes means it's going to be a different look for EGC if Shaden can get down there and try and influence a lot of that aggression that we are going to be having from Masu and Keektong.
Yeah, but I do love the fact that you said they're playing a little bit more supportive. I say that he's playing with all of the tools in his hands, right?
Yes,
the composition that has come out from Evil Geniuses Challengers is pretty low crowd control overall. You got a couple slows, you have like a knockback, you have a couple of knockups, but the big one, the one that you can actually use to start fights, is in Shaden's hands, and he is one of the people who can make so many crazy things happen. And one of the biggest criticisms we had about him last year, Eric, was that if he didn't have a good gank in the first 4 minutes of the game, he would sometimes disappear. I don't feel like that's really true anymore. It feels as though he is kind of rebounded and is starting to look for these big opportunities, even if the first couple of minutes don't go well.
Even in some of the rough games that they've had, Shaden has had standout performances. You know, Cubby talked about it a lot. Buck with the what was it? The Dude Lambo was the little skit that was being done. But it was multiple games in a row, 5 games in a row, where he had double digits in the kills. It was phenomenal carry performances coming out from Shaden. And we are finally ready to hit the Rift. We'll see if Shaden can continue this performances. Game number 1, Evil Geniuses Challengers versus FlyQuest Challengers.
Yeah, and looking across at the runes and all that, nothing particularly surprising coming out. I do like the fact that mobility was hovering heal in Champion Select, but has switched over to that barrier. And look at this. I mean, so far, Twitch chat, remember you can spam the EGC FlyC on who you think will actually be able to take this, and also join in on the conversation on Twitter. If you have strong takes, start putting them in Twitter now. We might, in fact, be using them relatively soon. But to start things off, one of the big things that we are going to be looking for is, again, how well Spyrex is able to stay up in this lane. How effectively will they be able to push forward? One of the important things, Eric, is we don't talk about cooldowns a lot. Ryoma on his W has a 20-something second cooldown. You know, that is a little bit less, or a little bit more, than being able to do it once per wave. And that's going to be your go button. And then you really need to get the explosion in order to get the reset to avoid ganks. Whereas Spyrex has the laser, you can do that twice per wave. It's about 12 seconds early on in the game, and that's going to be one of the big windows that Ryoma can use and exploit to try and fight against Spyrex.
And playing around with a lot of these picks that kind of come out, a lot of these unorthodox picks like the Tristan in mid or like the Udyr in mid we had before, you know, they kind of seem simple on the surface level, but there is a lot of nuance that goes to playing these. It makes it a little bit harder to just plug and play. See where these jungle pathings are going right now. Yuji is going to start up over at the Raptor camp. We'll be pathing over towards the bottom lane. Shaden has that red buff start. We'll be heading top side, Josh.
Yeah. I'm paying a lot of attention right now to these laning interactions, right? Because it does start off quite well for mobility and smoothing, and they also have Shaden coming down much quicker. This looks to be a very typical 3-camp gank into the bottom lane. Red Raptors Krugs, and Masu and Keaton, they're actually pushing up. That instant heal.
Ooh, going forward, mobility, a couple of shots onto Keaton. Summoners are going to be burnt. Both heals. Now going forward, Ryoma. Ignite goes out, looking for the solo. Level 2 on Spyrex. Will put the shield up, and it's enough to save him. What in the world? Spyrex, so quick to get that shield, will block out that final tick of Ignite.
That was such a weird interaction, but Ryoma does push Spyrex out of lane. Luckily, Spyrex has chosen to take the teleport, but Ryoma, where was the explosive shell? Not able to do anything. Now they go forward again in the bot lane.
Oh, this is a very, very spicy bottom lane. About to get spicier. Shaden showing up. Ward will be there, so FlyQuest do have vision of this, and they can bait this out a little bit. Wave is pushing towards the tower of FlyQuest. Evil Geniuses can't really do too much with Shaden right now.
Yeah, it's very tough as Bonsu and Keatung are sitting back. They did spot Yuji out, so this is a 3v3 in the making. And, no vision there for Evil Geniuses. This could be the counter gank. What a great set of timing.
Yeah, this is great by Yuji.
Also mid lane.
Masu, Keatung over there just waiting for the go button to come out. Mid lane, Shaden will arrive. Looking on the Spyrex. No flash for Spyrex, so in a lot of trouble, in a lot of hurt, goes to half health after just returning to lane.
Also, Yuji not going to get anything down in the bottom lane. I mean, the amount of damage that Shaden and Ryoma just put onto Spyrex does make it so much more dangerous for them to stick around. But Shaden, you're alone, buddy.
Yeah, Shaden, half health, gets caught by the Vault Breaker. Not enough follow-up to come through from FlyQuest, so they're not going to continue right there, but able to bully away Shaden from this side of the map. Scuttle grab control, we'll go over to Yuji.
Evil Geniuses, they've spent a lot of time as Ryoma jumps again. There's going to be a bit more damage, shouldn't be a kill, but Shaden spent so much time trying to help out these lanes thus far. He does need to be careful that he doesn't far too far behind. He's kind of been jerking Yuji around, and now they're trying to do that again.
I mean, Shaden right now, just playing really well with this lane priority that you're getting out of Ryoma. Well, this Raptor camp looking to steal it away. Here we go. Ryoma hopping in. Has the complete route to block away Yuji from the escape. First blood for Ryoma.
Great stuff. I love how Ryoma jumped past Yuji there in order to make sure that the Vi had nowhere to go on the escape. He would always get all the extra attacks down. And there you go. Ryoma and Shade, we said this was a huge mid-jungle duo.
Ooh, can Mobility make this work? Bubble goes out. Masu, a couple more autos. 200 health for both the bot lane of FlyQuest and Evil Geniuses. Still trying to pop damage. Not really committing outright. Smoothie has had time to come down here and protect poor Mobility.
Yeah. I mean, good job actually surviving that. Masu and Kitang will have to back away, but they did get up about a wave overall, and so far it's been a bit of a wild game.
This.
I'm a little bit surprised that this is actually our first blood, but again, with the amount of pressure that they're putting onto Yuji, Shaden knows he needs to recoup some of the losses, and just keeping him interested here, right? This is definitely a spot where, because Spyrax can't really join without losing a ton of minions, it's very easy to try and keep Yuji in this situation, and even with the flash, because you took so many shots before, I mean, you just get to reset on the jump. Ryoma able to clean it up and has Ignite ready to go for the next fight.
And this seems like Evil Genius is playing with purpose, playing with much more identity. Shaden's just been pivoting all around this lane priority set up by Ryoma. Ryoma has been checking Spyrax time and time again. It does look like FlyQuest want to set up into this mid lane to try and get something back. Smoothie hovering mid as well.
Yeah. I mean, with both Yuji and Hitan coming around, right, you do need to be very careful because Ryoma now has ultimate, has the Ignite. But Ryoma wants to try and get that back away. One of the things that you have to remember is that Tristanas, they tend to take the Bounty Hunter rune when they actually go for this red tree in particular, right? Every time you get a kill, you get stacking extra gold up. I think you get like 450 all said if you can get a kill or an assist on everyone. Ryoma actually got a lot of money off of that first kill. He just doesn't know he's on a ward.
These rocket jumps, they're going to keep coming in. Ryoma's going to keep bouncing in. Spyrax is going to be not having the most fun. The good thing about Spyrax is he is keeping up. Unfortunate with the blast mode there. He is keeping up in CS, laning against Ryoma. Thing is, Ryoma's looking for his head.
Yeah. Ryoma's been looking for these kills, not able to get it just quite yet, and Spyrax does have the flash coming up very soon. Ryoma should know, it's like my flash is his flash, so should not be surprised when Spyrax's flash actually comes up. Let's take a quick look at the side lanes as well. Relatively even. Soul has a very small lead going up against Philip in what is supposed to be a good matchup. He's been doing a good job, like, chunking Philip out in a lot of these trades, whereas on the bottom side, Mobility's kind of been left to his own devices, and with that in mind, the fact that they are still even is a pretty big shout out to this collegiate player.
I think Mobility has been a little bit slept on. He's got good hands. He's landing well against a lot of this tough talent. All things considered, I mean, you got to keep in mind, right? He's a substitute. He was someone who was just brought in because King was having those visa issues, and you know, he's making the best of it and doing a good job at it.
Yeah. Now, I got an important question for you. You said you're sleeping on him. Do you think Mobility is a honk shu or a honk me me me?
A what?
Honk shu or honk me 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 for his snoring?
For a snore, you said?
Yeah, when you snort, you know, like when you watch dwarves, and half the time they go shoo, shoo, and half the time they go me 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 me.
I think he's a me 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 me.
All right, well, we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can live up to that right now as we see objectives getting traded as the bubble lands.
Oh, it lands clean. Looking to take down Smoothie with the call-in. Masu dives forward and will take half the health of the bot lane of EGC. A lot of control established down there. Means that Yuji will start with the Drake, matched by Shaden with the Rift Herald.
Yeah, I mean, both junglers are doing this in full vision, right? Shaden was seen going into the pit. Yuji is seen doing the dragon. So just a trade in full knowledge. And now with junglers on opposite sides, is the opportunity to look for plays there. Yuji's potentially looking for a dive.
Goodness gracious. Still tearing apart that tower. Yuji looking for that dive, as you had mentioned. Putting pressure on the Smoothie and Mobility. Cutting out the bot lane of EGC from getting anywhere near this wave. It's time to get those plates onto Masu.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. You're trying to make sure that Masu, one of the big carries of the team, is snowballing and preventing Mobility and Smoothie from playing. This is something I love seeing from teams at this level, is converting leads into removing your opponent from the game. By the time Shaden gets here, everyone on FlyQuest is able to back away with their ill-gotten prize, and there hasn't been a response just quite yet. Other than some of the early plays from Shaden and Ryoma, they haven't really been looking to push Yuji around again.
No, it's mostly been Ryoma just kind of hard shoving this mid-wave and Yuji looking for somewhere he can play to. I mean, it was a good take to try and force something down into that bottom lane. Just Mobility and Smoothie reading it well enough to back up and make sure they're not going to lose more. I mean, all that said, Yuji's still accomplishing something by getting Masu those plates.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And now, moving again with Keetong, there's a gank coming through from Shaden, but it's already spotted out by FlyQuest.
Right there, the sweeper. And sees there might be some monkey business afoot. Shaden walking around alongside his support Smoothie. Nothing to really fight for, so no reason to push for positioning on the river. Control ward placed up. FlyQuest going for the vision denial. Ryoma, got to keep a close eye there, but Spyrex, got to keep an eye on him as well. Chunks out Ryoma.
Yeah, I mean, Spyrex has actually been doing a pretty fantastic job. Like, despite losing the flash early on, Ryoma has not been able to press again with the window where Ignite is up and the flash is down. So that's going to help out quite a bit, right? Oh, here we go. Yuji's here.
Oh, Yuji, perfect timing, shows up during the jump, and will be able to put that fist to the face of Ryoma, even up the kill lines 1-1 apiece.
Yeah, Shane trying to find something in the bottom lane, but this is what we were saying. You always have Yuji in your pocket, and that's going to make it so hard to try and find these solo kills. Shaden made that one attempt mid lane and then has never really come back into the lane at all. I mean, great stuff from the FlyQuest top side.
Ooh, Yuji's getting very active now, focusing over towards his top side, going after Soul, back-to-back ganks found by Yuji.
Yuji's doing so much work early on for this team, right? Despite the early first blood recipient, it's been so difficult thus far for Evil Geniuses to be able to push that early advantage that they had built. Yuji moving with Spyrax, moving with Philip. This is why these guys wanted to play together.
Yeah, Yuji all over the place. Ganks the mid lane, ganks the top lane. Both of those successful in getting kills on the solo laners of EGC. And now getting some momentum into his footing. Has that black cleaver completed. Yuji, this is what we like to see.
Yeah. I mean, you would kind of expect that the amount of times that we have seen Smoothie roam into the mid lane and the number of times that Shaden has kind of roamed here, that Ryoma might be able to really take over this game a little bit. But Yuji sitting right there, doesn't even have to use the ultimate.
Oh. Bubble into tidal wave. Smoothie forced to use the ultimate on himself, but mobility will look to check the hands of Masu and chase away the bot lane of FlyQuest Challengers.
Here we go, potential 2v2 skirmish. Spyrax spots him out. Wow, look at that damage. Look at that body.
Be careful, Ryoma. Caught by the ball breaker. Gets chunked down, and the Cyclone is not enough to save the mid of EGC. Same thing for FlyQuest, the only survivor. Yuji will take down the final kill.
Yuji catching the jump of Ryoma. There's nowhere for the Tristana to go. They're not strong yet, didn't have the ultimate, and Spyrax is able to put out the damage. Eric, the number of Victor bucks that Spyrax has gotten so far in this game has accelerated so heavily at this point. He's already almost got his second Victor item completed.
And it's all thanks to Yuji. Yuji just, in the last couple of minutes, has been spectacular with its decisions where to go onto the map, and as you were saying, timing out the jump right here, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, Ryoma getting caught means that there is not enough damage. Shaden doesn't get the first part of this Cyclone onto Spyrax, and so is able to do enough damage. The Chaos Storm is just sitting on top of them, and so FlyQuest, I mean, they're coming off to a pretty big lead. This is looking a little bit closer to that 2-0 that Keel was talking about, and the places where it's supposed to come from with Spyrax and Yuji are absolutely happening. The players that we were hoping, would continue their reign of terror, Masu and Philip, who are still looking to have a bit of a better game. I mean, they're setting up a gank for Yuji, right? It doesn't need to be all on your own.
So EGC, they got to look for a place to play from now. Shaden, with the lane priority and the way it's going, where is the point of attack? I mean, I've been looking a little bit more towards that bot side because I like the way Mobility and Smoothie are playing. There's a lot more protection with the Lulu to go for these ganks, and you should be expecting Masu and Keetong to be playing more on the aggressive side.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that we were talking about, right? It's a relatively low crowd control team coming out from Evil Geniuses. It's mostly Shaden who has access to reliable crowd control. I mean, you have the damage, right? When Soul's Riftmaker comes online, you will feel that. But I don't know if Shaden is going to be able to kind of make these things happen, right? This has definitely felt like a game of Shaden with the game going poorly from last year, where they haven't necessarily looked for a whole lot.
Setup coming out from FlyQuest. They are getting a lot of vision towards this bot side. A lot of that lingering from the dragon that they just took, but they might be looking for a dive. Yuji setting up onto Ryoma. A lot of push coming out from Spyrax, but content with stilling out the camp. Still so much control from FlyQuest on the map.
Shaden's hanging out down here, but Masu keeps not going to be giving them anything. I mean, I'm just really impressed so far with the way that FlyQuest have actually played this game. And now with Philip starting up the Rift Herald, they're going to be getting a lot of damage on the mid lane turret. They're going to be picking up an objective for free. And Shaden has gone for this lane gank attempt a couple of times, but is not going to commit to it as the wave is pushing out.
And it's a lot of time really wasted for Evil Genius's challengers. Shaden will try and find it back over towards the bottom lane, and it is a point of attack. You gotta shove in this wave. Recalls are coming out from the mid lane, as well as the jungle of FlyQuest, but spotted out inside the jungle. Masu will see the monkey.
And Yuji actually has access to these Hex Gates, gets here rather quickly. FlyQuest can choose to try and stop this if they want.
Oh no.
No, with that Vault Breaker already being used. Okay, it does go over to Shaden. I mean, with everything that we've set up, it doesn't feel like a huge lead, but oh god, that damage Ryoma's gonna have to back, doesn't have the teleport. I actually really like that usage of the ultimate because you're gonna have it up before another objective actually spawns, and now Ryoma can't defend the turret, right? Like Spyrax has been saying, they've been focusing so much on how to win their own laning phase. That is a great example of you don't need to kill your opponent to get advantages.
The mid lane has been completely flipped. And unfortunately for Ryoma, not into his favor. Spyrax now has the EXP advantage, a CS advantage on top of that. All that early pressure from Ryoma, it worked out okay for the early pressure of EGC, but it's the follow-up from Yuji that got Spyrax going, and now Spyrax, as you said, doesn't need kills to outright win this lane.
I mean, as somebody who has played both sides of this lane fairly often, the fact that Ryoma barely missed out on killing Spyrax, is a huge deal, right? Like, Ryoma really relies on using like 2 or 3 opportunities to jump on Spyrax in order to find that kill, and the fact that it didn't work out, and Spyrax had to reset with the teleport, and Ryoma had used everything, like, Tristana really plays on those small margins in order to find these massive, massive leads, and so now, I mean, you're looking at a composition coming out from Evil Geniuses that, to their credit, does scale very, very well. You still have a Tristana, who can become very strong after, you know, you finish your second and third item, and you also have mobility, and I don't think we need to remind people how strong Zeri is later on in the game.
Good shout out coming right there. Listening to NACL during your OChem lab. I gotta respect it. Some of our players are coming from Collegiate. We talked about that with Masu and mobility. You got to do what it takes, Josh.
Yeah, let's go Cesium Cookie. Very fitting for OChem. Now, Yuji coming down to at least drop the Herald potentially, but this turret should be going down even with Shaden hovering around. So FlyQuest going to be extending their lead, and with another dragon, I mean, we haven't even really touched on the fact that Yuji has gotten both of these dragons uncontested, right? You just got priority in the mid lane, you got priority in the bot lane, you take it over, and that's a huge win condition already building up for FlyQuest, right? The other win condition that they have is Yuji and Spyrax are massive, right? Spyrax are going to be doing so much damage, and if you accelerate a Victor, it is incredibly difficult to play against. And Spyrax, while I've not necessarily always been the highest on this guy, when you give him the tools to carry and he's strong, he does consistently actually do that. He's got so much extra range to play with, and with the low engage tools from Shaden, the only thing you need to be careful about is getting taken from a surprise flank or a surprise angle that he's not expecting.
Spyrax can play from behind, can play from ahead, a very flexible player. I remember that one shuffle we had from Spyrax last season, got to hold on. As Yuji getting caught out, knocked up, flashes over the wall, looking for the chase through. Ryoma will rocket jump, flashes on with the buster shot. Will get the shutdown onto Yuji. Cyclone follows through. Philip hops away, but knocked up is going to be Spyrax. Has a long way to run, still brings a lot of damage. Ultimate popped by Philip. Turns the tides of this fight, but is it enough to get a team fight win?
Trying to get back in.
Masu full health.
It's not over.
Away, fires away. Spyrax there, goes into Soul. Soul dashes forward onto Spyrax. Here comes Ryoma, and Soul will trade 1 for 1. Masu on the back end. Soul again, 300 health remains. FlyQuest go even 3 on both sides, Josh. No, actually 4, excuse me, Philip. Looking up.
No.
It's too late, Philip. Too far forward. Evil Geniuses will take one more.
Oh man, I was just about to set up like FlyQuest are in such a good spot to take the second fight around this dragon, right? The teleport's coming up from Spyrax. Yuji's Vi was coming out, but Philip, I mean, we said this is not the Philip from 2022. This Philip has been struggling thus far, going down, cannot join the upcoming fight. It hasn't equalized them yet, but that is a lot of money going over to Evil Geniuses. In particular, the fact that Ryoma was able to pick up the kill, some of the shutdown money onto Yuji here, is really going to allow them to have something to play around.
Yeah, you can see Ryoma really focused onto that because, as you said, it's shutdown money to be grabbed. It was a fight that really felt like it was coming from behind from EGC, because they were. That shutdown was very, very much needed, but... man, FlyQuest, they had a really good chance to keep this even.
Oh, we're live.
Now we're back live into the fight where Evil Genius is trying to contest for the Drake. It's going to be third Drake going over to FlyQuest, but Evil Geniuses will take the fight, however, as they take down Yuji once again.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we have been a little bit critical about with the FlyQuest Challengers roster is they will oftentimes put themselves in a situation where it feels like they are half committing to a lot of things, right? Philip walked top lane out of base. That was a 4v5 if they ever wanted to take it, and now they have to try and contest this Baron down their jungler.
Surrounding FlyQuest.
Spyrax has no ult for this.
What can they do with this? I mean, as you said, they don't have a smite. Shaden holding on. They got to take him down if they want to have a chance. And Philip has the answer. Shaden's down. A chance to steal away. FlyQuest, they got to attack it. They got to go after the Baron. A slither of health. It will be secured by mobility. Hopping forward, Ryoma wants Masu and will take him down.
He goes.
Sees the support as well. Will get a double kill. Tries to hop on out. Wants to bait the rest of FlyQuest. Too fast. Smoothie will sacrifice for the mid lane. Tommy gets out. Josh, there we go.
The Rammus thumbs up. Sorry, Smoothie. Thanks for taking that one for me. Gets out with another kill. Suddenly, Evil Genius is right back on in the game. They have the Baron buff as well. Another fumble coming out from FlyQuest, but I mean, props to Philip for actually going for that, knocking Shaden out to try and find an opportunity to go for this fight. This was looking a little bit doomed. They're coming in from different angles. They don't have the Chaos Storm. They are really just trying to do damage in order to get them off of the Baron. But Shaden takes so much damage from the culling that he has to kind of panic, go back towards the Baron, and Philip knocks him right on out. They kill the actual jungler so they can try and make this happen. But this is one of those spots. AoE, if AoE was FlyQuest, they get this Baron every single time, right? That's the kind of decisiveness that we see coming out from the team. But instead, it's Mobility who picks it up with just that little bit of extra area damage. And Ryoma, again, this is classic Tommy, you guys, going for these big fights, trying to find that extra kill, and he gets out with just a sliver of HP.
That was so close, that Baron take right there. If you saw the auto, it was a little bit of a photo finish coming out between Masu and Mobility. Mobility will grab the Baron for EGC, however, and now here comes the siege from Evil Geniuses Challengers. Top side the focus is, but Philip spots something in the mid lane. Soul isolated. Here we go. Philip jumps in, pulls him right back to his demise. Bubble doesn't need a land. Soul fed to the wolves, and that wolf's name is Masu.
There you go. I mean, getting the kill, they're going to be able to turn around, potentially take more turrets than their opponents, but now they have to back away. That's still a huge stop to the potential momentum the Evil Geniuses were building up off of that. But, Eric, I want to draw you back to one of the things we said earlier with the fact that Evil Geniuses have a very strong scaling team. We now have Ryoma's Tristana on 3 items already, right? We see Mobility well on his way to completing the second and becoming a massive problem for the side of FlyQuest. Whereas on the other side, you know, you have a couple of reasonably strong... Oh my god, they just find Keaton.
So fast.
One more?
Taken down, looking for another onto Philip. Evil Genius is a pick just like that, and you have to scratch your head towards FlyQuest and what they're doing right here. A lot of small mistakes coming in, Josh.
Yeah, Evil Geniuses are fast to punish, right? That's one of the things that I've been so impressed with Ryoma over the course of his career is he will see something that he thinks is a mistake, and he will hop on it. In this case, very literally, right? He will literally jump on your face. And so, Ryoma has been one of these players that is so volatile, right? Was really struggling early on in the game and died multiple times because of it. But now he's looking for those small angles, trying to find their way back in. And suddenly, not only is he a massive teamfight threat because it's a 3-item Tristana, but he's also a massive side lane threat. He can start jumping on Spyrex, and the thing that makes it so good is that Ryoma gets to choose when they fight.
Philip looking for the chase on the Soul. The rest of FlyQuest are going to arrive to look to take his Soul. Oh, clopping down onto him. Masu pops the calling and will be able to get that kill. FlyQuest finding some picks of their own.
They're setting up right now for the win condition that we had started to set up for them, right? Remember, they are 3 dragons to the Hextech Soul already. That is so powerful, in particular on Spyrex and Masu, because when they throw down their ultimates with a slow attached to them, it's so hard to get out.
Shaden Cyclone, once again, Keitong just gets popped. Masu watching his support disappear before his eyes. The picks, it's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, but this time favors EGC because Dragon spawns innate.
Yeah, Soul will be able to teleport. FlyQuest can choose to give this up. They don't have a lot of engage tools. UG does not have access to the ultimate.
Soul's teleport.
They're going to flip it. Yeah, the teleport's going to be in the mid lane. They're going to be sandwiched. There it is.
Here we go, teleport coming through. Shaden, no ultimate available, can't go for the outright engage, but can chase onto FlyQuest. Soul with the flank, hops onto Masu. Masu losing a chunk of damage. Here comes Mobility sliding through. The knock-up, beautiful from Smoothie. And here comes Ryoma with the rocket jump, flashes over the wall to put Masu into the grave. And 2 back-to-back kills found by Evil Geniuses Challengers results in a siege in the mid lane, Josh.
So much money going over to Evil Geniuses all of a sudden. They haven't even picked up the dragon just quite yet. They're so focused on trying to take as many structures as they can, and this has been one of the things that Evil Geniuses are preying on from FlyQuest. The indecision coming through from FlyQuest in these so important moments has been so big, and you see, Evil Geniuses, they didn't have any engage tools other than Soul going for that flank, but he's able to find it anyway, and they pick up the dragon.
You can see the setup coming through. This was off of a picked up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
They instantly, they're all chasing down, right? It doesn't really matter, and suddenly the 280 carries are able to free hit because they are so focused on trying to deal with the one flanker. FlyQuest not able to get out of that one, and I have to say, I think Ryoma is very quickly becoming Alex's favorite player because of the number of times Ryoma is flashing forward.
I got to put a small highlight on Smoothie for that play as well. That wild growth. I mean, timing it, making sure that Soul was in the right spot, Soul positioning as well, but 4-man knockup coming out from that made sure that more kills were going through for Evil Geniuses, trying to maximize every team fight that they're able to win out on.
Yeah. And now, I mean, getting close to 4 items, 2.5 already for mobility. The scaling is online. We have to look at Spyrex. I mean, as we see, he does a lot of damage. He goes!
These 2 junglers, they've been very active in enabling picks for their squads, both UG and Shaden, but now we're 5v5. Standing in the mid lane, both teams drawing the battle lines.
Yeah, remember, almost all of the engaged potential for Evil Geniuses comes out of Shaden. He's got to hide in these places.
Oh, here comes Shaden. Oh, the knockup is brilliant, and Masu's
dead.
Gone. Cease and desist onto the back line, but UG is now empty-handed. Has to return to the rest of FlyQuest, but Soul is tearing them apart. Will take a piece of UG as well. 2 down for FlyQuest.
And a huge punish coming out from Shaden. As soon as Masu goes forward with the calling, Shaden is on top of him. Flashes for the engage. This should be the Baron going over for Evil Geniuses Challengers, and they are in a dominating position all of a sudden. FlyQuest is not coming at all, and for everybody who's joining in from the LEC, first off, welcome, but this has been a back and forth game. FlyQuest Challengers have really been pushed to the limit by Evil Geniuses Challengers, who now have Oceanic Star Ryoma coming through to try and help them out.
Everything coming together in that last fight. Shaden, how phenomenal was that engage? Flashing in, constantly trying to make Evil Geniuses come alive in these team fights, and boy, is he doing it, Josh.
Yeah, North American talent, Oceanic talent are suddenly figuring it out, right? We were, or at least I was very critical of how they were not really looking for anything for about the first 10 minutes, but now feels like they've come online once again. Shaden understands that he's got to make all of these plays for the rest of his team in order to put them in a position of power yet again. Now, the big thing for FlyQuest as they lose so many of these structures is how do they want to try and play around that upcoming Hextech Soul? It'll be their second attempt to actually get it. And remember, the big reason why it went so poorly was a teleport from Soul and a pick that they got into Gitong.
And it feels like it's going to be even harder now. You got a gold lead for EGC with strong established map control onto this bottom side. This is where they're sieging up at the very moment. They have Soul over in the mid lane. 1-4 split push coming through for EGC. FlyQuest, their backs are against the wall, but they're going to try and find the play. They'll get it onto Ryoma. Yuji so quick with that engage. Shaden looking for the disengage with the Cyclone. Has to go golden. Mobility over the wall, bringing in the autos. Mobility's chipping away. Mobility's getting going, but Philip is able to put a stop to that. Now Philip backing off, gets the stun onto Soul. Soul over the wall, takes a lot of damage, but Philip has to retreat. Low health bars both ways. Who is going to fall? You don't want to collapse right now. Big pick coming out from Yuji. Will send EGC for the hills.
We got to look at what summoner spells were blown because, you know, as Alex will say, a kill is a kill, but the big thing is what resources were used to do it. You put a stop to the bleeding, and so now Masu has no flash for the upcoming fight, but neither does Mobility. Mobility will not have any summoners for the upcoming Hextech Soul fight, and that is FlyQuest Challengers way back into the game. Ryoma, I mean, for as much as we've been praising them using a flash to go forward, clean up these extra kills during these team fights, I mean, missing it a little bit right now because they didn't have it for the last fight. And FlyQuest, interestingly, they're pushing towards the opposite side of the map as the Hextech Soul is getting close to spawning. They will not have the vision necessary to walk in.
Yeah, it looks like they don't want to challenge for this. Philip, Ultimate will be down for that next fight. That's the only major one. Looking the opposite way, you're going to have most of your tools available for EGC, so FlyQuest, I guess they don't want to challenge us right now. They rather just let it go by the wayside. Not exactly pressured, but it does prolong that win condition of the Dragon Soul.
That is worrying. FlyQuest does not scale better than Evil Geniuses.
Yeah.
The game going longer does not make a fight afterwards easier, and with both of their solo laners rather far away, I mean, giving this up feels like a misread of the situation coming out from FlyQuest as we are just allowing Evil Geniuses to get stronger and stronger. Remember how we were talking about all eggs in the Styrex basket before? It feels like even more that way now, right? He's going to be the one who needs to do the damage in these upcoming team fights, and having completed the third item is very far from the Rabadons he needs to blow up some of these squishy members.
I mean, I feel that entirely, but here comes Philip popping that ghost to go after Soul. The rest of FlyQuest over in this quadrant of the jungle that would normally belong to EGC. I mean, even with that last play that we had over by the Drake, Yuji had a great engage, was able to get a great pick, but what did FlyQuest really do with that? They just ended up forfeiting a lot of that Dragon control. They forfeited a lot of map pressure. Right now, they're playing, I feel like, a little bit more frayed than they need to, considering, as you were talking about, Josh, that scaling win condition for EG.
Yeah. The other thing that we kind of have to touch on is, as much praise as we've given Masu, this game is particularly hard to play for the Lucian, right? Again, we have to touch on the fact that they are playing on something like 100 ping, right? So that makes any defensive play more difficult. But the problem is you are outranged by Tristana. You're outranged by Zeri. The people that you want to be hitting are those characters. And Lulu's not going to be anywhere close for you to actually hit. So it's going to be Soul and Shaden who are diving onto you, who are trying to actually kill you. Soul is super hard for him to hit because as long as he's sitting in that circle, Masu has to come into melee range. Shaden, if you're in range of Shaden, you're getting knocked up. So Masu, one of the other stars that we'd normally be looking at, if they can overcome all of this, we're going to be hyped as hell about it. But he's not set up to have a whole lot of success in this later stage of the game.
And you got to make sure a fight isn't going to break out anytime soon for FlyQuest. I think they're without worry at the moment just because Masu's flash is down. That flash is going to mean so much to the grand scheme of FlyQuest. Ryoma, a little bit of chip damage. Calling goes out. Masu is there. As I said, I don't want FlyQuest to fight this right now. Only poke out. Wait for that flash to come off. It's almost off cooldown right now, and they got something back for Masu.
There's a small window here where Masu has the flash and Mobility does not. But Evil Genius is going to be backing away. Just as you were saying, you don't need to take a fight when you do not have your resources available. So we're seeing Evil Geniuses continue to scale up, and with 30 seconds left before this dragon, I mean, this is when I like seeing FlyQuest move over to this side of the map, but they also need to be very careful. They're pinging in their own jungle, being like, we haven't seen anybody from Evil Geniuses. There might be somebody going for a flank, and we need to clear out these teleport wards, which was one of the big things that doomed us around the previous Hextech fight.
Sweeping out that top quadrant 5 seconds before Baron comes up. So
no way, dude!
What did I just miss?
You see that? Mobility sniped out the red buff.
I was looking at the mini-map for a second, so I completely missed that one, Josh.
Oh, like, even though it doesn't matter that much, like, that is such a mental
It's a
damage.
mental victory, man.
Like, that is so big. It was blind too, right? He doesn't actually see any of these guys over here. They don't have vision. He gets the red buff blind trying to kill or like get some chip damage onto FlyQuest and gets a red buff for it. Man, that's brutal.
Mobility's winning out 3-0-5 right now. Young Collegiate sub showing up against FlyQuest, one of our more highly regarded teams here in NACL. But as it is right now, I hope you have your dancing shoes on, Josh, because
we're gonna
be around this Baron for a while.
Yeah. We're going to do a little bit of a dance, but you can see in the picture exactly what we were talking about, right?
Yeah, I want to see
this. I mean, he might have been able to see that red buff getting started up, but it is completely blind, just shoots out the zap.
No way.
And now they're starting up the Baron.
That was so much more impressive now that I actually watched it. Oh, right in that pixel brush.
It absolutely makes you wonder, like, as a player, is like, do they have vision? Was that just total luck? And, you know, a little bit of, you know, skill, knowing that people are likely to be there. But Evil Geniuses, they start up the Baron. FlyQuest asked, are you sure about that? And Evil Geniuses were like, no, not really. But they got a lot of damage, and the poke is really starting to add up from mobility. Remember, FlyQuest's main way back in this game is the dragon, and they're trying to back away.
Dude, they melt this dragon so fast it's going down. You gotta be quick.
Steal!
And UG is! He will steal it! It's a heist! He gets out! UG as Baron!
What the hell is going on in this game, man? The blind red buff steal, and now Yuji goes in. They were not set up for that at all, but look at this. They are racing towards the bottom. Both teams committing teleports to make sure that they can actually fight it. Evil Geniuses are stronger, but this is FlyQuest's win condition. If they win this smite over the dragon, they can actually contest again.
Yeah. Yuji was like, hey, you look good in red, it's all right. I look better in purple. Baron for FlyQuest. Now they're looking for Soul on top of that.
Watch Shaden.
Speaking of, he is on the flank. Shaden looking for an engage. Spyrax put down the gravitational field. That's going to be on cooldown. That's a lot of zone control that FlyQuest want to have utilized for this fight. Ryoma waiting for the opportunity. Shaden's going in. Knock up onto Ryoma. Burst of damage, but Spyrax will be able to go golden and not
they got Spyrax.
No, Spyrax goes down. Shaden swings away. Dragon Soul goes over to FlyQuest. Is it going to be enough to win the fight, though? Yuji goes down. Looking for the chase is going to be Soul jumping in with the rocket jump. Goombas all over the place. A double kill found by Ryoma. And Philip, that's the wrong direction, Fen. Tommy's over there, and he's brought his Tommy gun. Big kills coming out for EGC. Doesn't matter if they lost the objective. They're looking to win the damn game, Josh.
The late game scaler is popping off with his huge chase, hitting almost everybody's. Only Keechong left. You have 30 seconds left before Spyrax. This is Evil Geniuses taking game one, baby.
Evil Geniuses running it right down. FlyQuest. They were able to stifle a lot of that early priority, but when Ryoma hits the ritz, when Ryoma gets going, he brings the hurt, he brings the pain, and he brings a victory for Evil Geniuses Challengers.
Wow, Eric. I mean, I was kind of expecting at least one win coming out from Evil Geniuses, but I was not expecting it to be that emphatic, right? FlyQuest seemed like they were in control of the game for so long until suddenly they weren't. They allowed Evil Geniuses to scale up. Ryoma popped off with so many flashes forward this game to pick up that little bit of extra money. Really enjoyed seeing what Evil Geniuses are now looking like when they have their mainline mid laner.
Yeah, we're getting that identity starting to come through. It's playing towards Ryoma more, and Ryoma is paying up those big dividends. We're going to take a moment to throw it over a short break while we get ready for game number 2. We'll bring Kill back for a halftime segment. Be sure to stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to another NA Talent Update. In the spirit of Valentine's Day, we're going to be spreading a little bit of extra love this week. So we're going to start it off with Mazel as he walks us through the Challengers Safari.
Welcome to the Challengers Safari. Let's go on a journey to find the love language of the jungle. And here we have the likely duo of Sketch and Aaron, the bottom laners for CLG Faith. They find themselves in a bit of a tussle, but that synergy and love between Sketch and Aaron shows them through. And a little bit of a wombo combo. Ah, now we see the epitome of a brotherly friendship in the wild. Svenskeren and Hanser. What love. And up here it seems we have a peaceful wolf taking his time among the trees, but what is this? He's taking the... I think he's got the dog in him. I think he's got the dog in him. Oh, I'm so sorry. Caught off guard there. You know, I do love brotherly times, and seeing these two work so well together. Oh, Svenskeren, you found yourself out, but luckily, your friend is always here. Oh, beautiful friendships and kinship in the wild. You see the more mature Winnie coming to save Darkwings. The familial bond really coming in strong and too much for Young to handle. That's true friendship.
We had some great plays on the Rift this past week, so I felt like I had to commemorate them this week with some Valentine's Day cards that you, and maybe even the players, might be able to use. My axe is thirsty. Are you?
Faisal, even though there was...
He can turn this.
He can turn this easily. Flash away. That damage! Faisal, you don't fight him! You leave him alone! You let him have his own island! Even if you send Victor down, he's gonna chase it down! Triple kill!
What did we say?
Meet me between the turrets. I know we have two mid. Please look bot.
Mia's probably just dead. One shot. Yep.
Oh my god. Spin to win with me, and we can let it rip.
Backline on a keel. They've got zone control though with the glitch Victor. And look at Moose Hater. Look at the heroic entrance. Double knockup they needed to. And Moose Hater, he stands there menacingly.
Oh, that's a kill. He just dead.
Over the competition. Lands kiting it back as Wild Card win the...
Thanks for joining us for another week of the NA Talent Update. We hope that you enjoyed a little bit of extra love that we had for our players this week. We hope that you spread that love to everyone around you, as we'll see you next week. And until then, may your week be filled with positive gaming experience.